Thank you, Dr. Hun. And thank you, IPS, for giving me the opportunity and onepeople.sg. They are, in fact, one of our strongest supporters of Rose of Peace. Full of hands, because I know we are after lunchtime and everyone's feeling sleepy. You can just see by the slouching faces. How many of you guys have heard of Rose of Peace? Not from the booklet, even before that. Rose of Peace essentially is a ground-up initiative. We started this back in 2012, myself being involved in it from the onset. I think you can read more about how the initial formation of Rose of Peace is online, but I think for the purpose of this discussion, I'll focus on some of the highlights that I think we can draw conclusion from based on our journey. So I'll just focus on those. So we like to say, spreading peace, love, and harmony in Singapore, one rose at a time, because that's what we do. We started off with our signature initiative by giving out roses. But before that, let me just focus on the values that drive us at Rose of Peace. Essentially, we are driven by peace, love, and harmony. I think as nice sounding as it is, I think it's important that to build a peaceful community, we have to exemplify it through our actions. And for that, we promote through the giving out of roses. We attach a greeting card. I think I brought a sample greeting card. You can have a look. With the attached greeting card, saying of peace from all the different religious leaders. So I think it's important because end of the day, when you take out the labels of whoever said whatever quote, whichever religious leaders, for instance, Jesus Christ, Gautama Buddha, Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and even from the Bhagavad Gita, the message is the same. It's one that is of peace and harmony and love and kindness and compassion. So that's something that we want to bring across through our initiative. And love, to appreciate and respect all faith communities through understanding our differences. Because end of the day, we can't be the same. We have to recognize the fact that all of us are distinct and we have to cherish our differences and work across religious divides. Because we need to live harmoniously. That's the third value that we espouse. It's strengthening the social fabric of a society by recognizing and leveraging on similarities. So we try to do this by different activities, by enlarging the common spaces, which I'll share later on. And how we started Rose of Peace is really, you'll be surprised. It started off in 2012, when in the aftermath of Charlie Hebdo. How many of you guys know Charlie Hebdo, the caricature against Prophet Muhammad? I'm trying to, raise participation level because everyone's feeling a bit dull. So in the aftermath, what happened was I was an SMU student, 2012, and I was approached by a senior of mine who wanted to do a protest at the campus because she was very angry with what was going on in the Western media, especially with the vilification of Muslims and sort of, the global uproar to the innocence of the Muslim video that was released on YouTube in America, as well as the aftermath after the video when we had the caricature against Prophet Muhammad that was published by Charlie Hebdo in France. So in that incident, she wanted to protest, and I was taken aback because I was, leading one of the societies in SMU, and people were asking me to endorse the protests. And how can you do that in Singapore? What is, you're going to get into trouble, right? Because I just started a society. I was at that time heading the Political Association and the Muslim Society because two very volatile, organization. So which means that I wanted to get a sense of how these students were reacting. And a lot of them, they were pent up. They were very angst about how things were taking shape in the world. And they wanted to show the displeasure. And I said, why don't you gather friends who are keen and how they are interested about, to do something about this. So why don't you take a step back? Because she wanted to protest because to show that Islam is a peaceful religion, but we can do through other means, right? So that's how the whole concept and the idea of roses came up. We thought, how about we give out roses with attached greeting card with saying of peace? And that is to exemplify the spirit and the essence of the message that Prophet Muhammad came with. And then we realized that we live in a multi-religious, multicultural society. We don't want to be seen as proselytizing, or we're not promoting one religion or another. And this is something uniquely Singapore that we have to guard. How do we show that? By including quotes of all the different faith luminaries, Jesus Christ, Gautama Buddha from the Sikh tradition, Guru Nanak, from Bhagavad Gita and Confucius, and all the faith religious leaders. So when we did that, what happened was naturally we pulled together youth from all walks of life, regardless of race or religion. We started off focusing on religion, but we realized that we can't proceed as it is because race is also intricately linked to religion. And that's why we formed the strong partnership with OPSG, and they've been supporting us for some time. So this is how we started. We see this nice photo here. I think, is Dr. Jen still around? So he's the one at the tip of the heart. We give out roses. Literally, we give out roses, as I shared with you. But it doesn't just include just giving out roses. We train the volunteers, because these volunteers are from all walks of life. When we started out 2012, we gave out 3,000 roses. We had about 100 volunteers. But over the years, most recently, we have grown. And most recent, last year, we gave out 10,000 roses across Singapore. In an annual event, in one day, simultaneously, we give out in 20 locations. We have about 300 volunteers that we mobilize. And happy to say that over the years, we didn't expect to grow. It was a natural progression. Like I say, it's a ground-up initiative. We weren't even planning to register our organization. We initiated in 2012. We weren't even registered until last year. And why we had to register? Because we had our patron who came on board, Madam Halima Yaakob. So, and that was just before she took office. So my friend was saying, Irshad, you better register yourself. I said, why? You can't have a patron for a ground-up initiative. You're not registered. So it was really a reactionary move, how we have grown and how we have progressed over the years. And we have also seen a natural inclination by our youth to come forward because it's a ground-up initiative. And they feel that we are non-partisan, we are not fronting any agenda. They know who we are, they know us, and they can relate naturally to us. So what we do before we give out the rose, we train them, because it's not just important to just give out the rose, but they have to be trained on mindful communication, on cross-cultural communication, on why they do this. And we basically want to bring together youth from different religious background and racial background and social classes. And like Dr. Hoon was saying, from SAP schools as well as madrasas, from all walks of life, bring together, give them the platform to discuss issues as well as to make friendship. And thankfully, I'm happy to say that since 2012, many of these youth have kept coming back to us. So we have engaged about 2,000 volunteers over the years, and they have formed strong bonds and friendship. And it doesn't just stop there, just training them, but packing of the roses is very important, because these roses have to be packed. And we inbuilt team building activities, through our activities, whereby they come together and regardless of the race or religion and differences, they have to pack 3,000 roses or 10,000 roses last year in about one day. And that's not an easy feat. Glad that we managed to pull it off. But this is something that, it's very enlightening, it's very heartwarming to see hundreds of volunteers, Muslims, Christians, Buddhists, Hindus, Sikh, from all other religion under one roof, motivating each other as they pack thousands of roses. And at the end of the day, they have a really good time, fun time. They take selfies, they post online. So why I'm sharing with you all these things, this is essentially what Ground Up Initiative is. It's very natural, it's very progressive. They call in their friends, they call in their families, they call in their relatives even, their uncles and aunties and grandparents. So they come together to volunteer and to lend their time for a common cause. And we don't just stop there. After they give out the roses, they have an appreciation dinner, because youth, especially today, when you talk about religious and racial harmony, it's always the same faces that you see over and over again in events and forums and dialogues. So because what we want to do is attract new people. So when we appreciate their efforts, we are having appreciation dinner after they've given out, it really brings together more people, and they bring in their friends the following, subsequent years. And that's what we have been able to do. And what's really started off as just an annual event, what happened was there was a lot of demand for it. We have people from various organizations, various institutions, and asking us, can you do Rose of Peace in our community, etc. So what we essentially do is to build safe spaces, and safe spaces include, like I said, the packing, the bonding, the training, etc. But also we have youth forums. Because what we realize is the initial stage when we give out the rose is an awareness stage. After awareness, what we have to do is to build the understanding between the people, between different religion and races. And for that, we need to create safe spaces. So we have youth forums where we invite community leaders such as ministers and members of parliament. Because when the youth have that impression and they realize that their voice is being heard by the policymakers, they feel empowered. That's what we realize. So when we do that, we draw more people from all walks of life. People who are skeptical. So we always tend to attract the skeptics because they feel that their voice is always not heard, and it's always like the majority, whatever is being pushed up by the government, etc., is always the agenda of the day. But when we give them this platform to discuss these issues and ask hard questions. And typically the media is not invited. Well, they can cover the event after or before, but during the dialogue itself, they can ask anything to the ministers or the members of parliament. So that really empowers them to step forward, to ask difficult questions, and to understand some of the nuances of why certain policies are the way it is. And interfaith conferences. So our approach to interfaith is very different from many other organizations out there. What we do is we don't just talk about the tenets or the pillars of the religion, because that's already done and dusted. A lot of us can go online, Wikipedia, whatever, we can find about a particular religion. But how many of us are actually inspired by the stories of the people of faith who do social good? So we invite the speakers, specially curated, like for instance, I think Dr. Mariam is on the panel here on this photo. So this Faith in Action conference was there, and prior to that, Ambassador Zainal was one of our speakers as well. So what we do is we invite individuals who are driven by faith. So as you see from the panel, this quick Xiao In, she's a Presbyterian, she's a Christian. Dr. Sharifah Mariam Al-Jin, she's a Muslim, Arab. And Venerable Chuan Guan, he's a Buddhist priest. So what we do is we get people who are really doing good in the community, but are they driven by, and how are they driven by faith, and how their religion shapes, and what values that shapes them to do whatever that they're doing. So when we approach it from that perspective, what happens is the youth, they can relate. They can relate to stories, they can relate to practical implementable steps, and be inspired to do more of the initiatives and take the next step of understanding to appreciation. And when I say awareness, understanding, appreciation is when they become a volunteer, when they appreciate the nuances, when they appreciate how we function and how we reach out and taking action, they become a volunteer with us. And as volunteers, before that, we also have this recent, earlier this year in February, we had this symposium, Faith in Leadership, where we don't just tap on, the members of the parliament or ministers and local civil society leaders. We also brought in speakers from overseas. Krish Revel from Faith in Leadership in UK, one of the most, leading interfaith organization in the world. And then Tion from America, youth leadership. So we don't approach interfaith just interfaith, but also with youth leadership. I think that's very important. And so Connectors program, as I was sharing with you, is, so we try to move to the heartlands. It's not just important, we do an annual event, but we go to the heartlands. So Connectors, this was at Nisun GRC. So we did a GRC level event, where we also launched the Rose of Peace Advocates Network. So basically our volunteers are part of this advocates network. And this is the GR, so we reach out to the heartlands, we also reach out to schools, so this was at ITE College West, actually done yesterday, and we work with polytechnics, universities, so we want to bring Rose of Peace closer to home, wherever they are, to the heartlands, the schools, and also with organizations. This was the Singapore Kindness Movement for their Kindness Day. And we want to work with various stakeholders in all parts of society, because we want to bring that message of peace directly to them, not expecting them to show up, for forums and this and that, because typically people don't. And so we try to raise awareness in this regard. So this is something that we are really proud of. So last year, taking advice from our patron, she said that, Ishad, you are good at, Rose of Peace is very good at building rapport with the youth and attracting them and involving them in building peace in Singapore. Why don't you do something of sorts like an interfaith ambassador or peace ambassador program? So we took that initiative, the idea, so we launched something called the Rose of Peace Ambassador Program. This is a signature initiative that we launched earlier this year. Out of 90 applicants, we interviewed and we selected 30 applicants and appointed them for a 1-year period. And this appointment ceremony, what happened was they're going to focus on not just building religious harmony in Singapore, but also cross-cultural communication. They were trained on online digital media engagement. They were trained on some of the security issues that involve in faith-race relations in Singapore. So we had experts from all fields coming down to train the participants for the first 6 months. The next 6 months, they're supposed to do a mini project. So what we do is, as I was sharing with you, awareness, understanding, whereby awareness is to the public. And through understanding, we have, through the safe spaces that we create, we have the participants who are joining us, who then become the advocates, volunteers, so to speak. And when they appreciate what we're doing, why we're doing this, and when they come to the ambassador program, they become multipliers. That's the hope that, we have structured the whole thing. And one of the key things that one of the highlights that we did as part of the ambassador program, one of the ambassadors said, you know what, Ishad, we have the, Good Friday is coming, and prior to Good Friday, they have the Lent period, 40 days. And many of the ambassadors didn't even know what a Lent period was. Many of the Singaporeans also didn't know what Lent. So all of us know about the public holidays, like we discussed, but do we know the nuances behind some of the traditional practices? Like, for instance, the Muslims, they have the Isra and Miraj, where Prophet, ascended up to the heavens. For the Hindus and the Sikhs, they have other festivals, etc. So the idea was to reach out to them and to explain that. And we do that through, it is one of the initiatives where we wrote a letter of peace to all the churches in Singapore. And we're invited by the Methodist Church and all the non-denominational, denominational churches, etc., to reach out to them. Digital engagement, quickly, is because these are youth. You can't engage them the same way and the traditional way that we have always engaged them and built peace in Singapore. You have to engage them through stories. You have to engage them through online interactions, etc. So we have this program called, we have this online initiative, Humans are Roses of Peace, where we capture the lives of our ambassadors, as well as participants and volunteers and advocates, and people who receive the rose, where they share their stories and inspire other people. So we try to capture that. And ROP Faith Lift, this is our online initiative as well, where we, basically focus on a particular occasion, say Palm Sunday or Lent period, or we have even, Isra Miraj, Vaisakhi for the Sikh, where we sort of educate people on what this, special occasions mean, etc. So this is done online, on Facebook, on YouTube, through our WhatsApp channels, etc. And recently we launched something called the Petal Peace Ambassador, a brand ambassador. So we realized that, my parting words is, Petals is a branding ambassador for Rose of Peace, and why we launched it is a fictional character, basically, but it encompasses the characteristic of today's millennials. And just like, and today's millennials, and just like any other youth, Petals is one that cares for the community and is now an interfaith advocate. Why we launched this online initiative of Petals is to create an intimate experience on social media, especially for youth, through storytelling. And these are powerful tools to engage the audience, but with Petals, it is exactly what we aim to do, to show that every youth is capable of being an interfaith leader, change maker in their own right, and it starts from them. So this is Petals, and you can follow us on Instagram, Rose of Peace, and our website, roseofpeace.com, and Facebook. And just want to part with our message from a patron, where she said, organizations such as Rose of Peace play an important role as bridges between our communities. This role is even more crucial now as the world is experiencing increasing uncertainty and threat to social cohesion. And ground-up initiatives like Rose of Peace tend to be more agile, nimble, and able to quickly rally support, as well as respond to new trends or issues. By working together, we're able to enlarge our common spaces, connect with others. So with that, thank you for the opportunity, and look forward to the question and answer later. Thank you.